Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fanfiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
Later that same day, Jiraiya wasted no time in calling in his counselors, and when he saw them, it went off quickly. The air in the office room was a level beyond stifling. It was almost suffocating, like a scorching summery day. All the Godame Hokage's doing. That alone was a bit amusing to the Senju woman. After all, Tsunade was usually the one giving people killing intent, especially perverts like Jiraiya who got too bold for her liking. Like that one time when he caught her in full nudity in a hot spring. She beat the absolute shit out of him that day. This time, however, Jiraiya was producing a dense aura of killing intent, which was a rarity. One could easily forget Jiraiya's veteran status and service history due to him acting buffoonish on his best days at work, and one would be a bigger fool than the Toad Sage. And the people who were receiving this nasty amount of killing intent were the Konoha Council. Hamura and Koharu looked, for lack of better words, like they were shitting themselves. Hamura was sweating up a rainstorm and Koharu kept licking her wizened lips as if she was trying to keep them from chapping up. They looked like Jiraiya was stabbing them with his glare alone. If Tsunade herself was a person of weaker constitution and mental fortitude, she would be having all the classic symptoms of a person experiencing an intense level of killing intent like them. Tsunade watched it all, silently. Jiraiya started showing some stuff. A paper tag with black-inked kanji, reading listen. It had played the entire conversation they had at Danzo Shimura's house a few hours ago. It acted like a discreet tape recorder that could be on Jiraiya's person at any time, without notice. Hell, Tsunade didn't know he had that one. The soon-to-be ex-counselors didn't dare any sort of denials. Maybe it was just the killing intent that acted like a truth serum, but they confessed to everything. How they worked with Shimura behind the Sandame's back. How they cornered Itachi Uchiha and brainwashed him. How they cornered any Uchiha clan member that had a mission outside the village and had them deal with an Itachi who now acted as their boogeyman. How they commanded Itachi to slaughter every Uchiha they lived in Konoha, whether it be man, child, woman, old, retired, or ailing. It was all to spare the village a coup d'etat, they claimed. Koharu stressed that, especially. Tsunade knew that being the Hokage had to come with some unpleasantries to deal with later in the future, and she wasn't even sure whether or not the genocide of the Uchiha clan was a necessary evil. But they went behind the Hokage's back and Jiraiya was keen to call Hamura and Koharu out on their bullshit. So, besides Sasuke, who Itachi didn't kill for what seems to be unknown reasons, you decided to slaughter everyone in the clan. People who were retired, too young, too old, or too sick who couldn't possibly take part in this plot the Uchiha cooked up? Innocent children, who weren't even privy to the clan's intentions with Konoha, you slaughtered? All without the Hokage's consent. We had to do what was necessary, Hokage-sama. Hamura started in an appeasing tone, somehow finding his voice. Tsunade scoffed, knowing where this was leading. They were about to prattle about, just like Danzo, how they were being patriots to the village. Koharu continued, sounding just as desperate. Precisely. We were tasked to do this to save Konoha. For years we had suspicions that the Kyuubi's attack happened because of a Uchiha controlling it. No other people could control the Biju like a Uchiha Sharingan user can. One of our agents in their clan even confirmed they were planning to overthrow us. An agent you ended up double-crossing and killing anyway, if I remember correctly, Jiraiya snarked. What would you have us do? Sit and wait until the things happen? Hope to the gods that the Uchiha had a change of heart? We dirted our hands so no one would get hurt. We did things that even Hiruzen wouldn't even do. The old woman nearly shrieked. Jiraiya gave them both his nastiest sneer. You never thought that not everyone in the clan might have thought it was right to overthrow Konoha's leaders? Were you that worried about Konoha, or were you worried about your positions in the village leadership staying intact? Tsunade noticed the counselors flinching. What about the people who could be scared into submission? What about the children who could have grown up to be fine, loyal ninjas in our village? You threw all their lives away because of fear. The counselors floundered as if they didn't consider the problem with just going down the kill-em-all route to dealing with the near-extinct clan. Tsunade wanted to simultaneously throw her head back in laughter or smack it in frustration. She did neither to keep up appearances. Canola hadn't even recovered from the Kyuubi attack and you decided to destroy an entire clan of our people just because you were afraid. Jiraiya pointed at them. Tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. You didn't even bother with peace talks, you didn't allow the Hokage to make the move first. You trusted that power for yourself and for that, you cannot be forgiven. From this day forth, the Konoha Council is to be absolved. Himura hung his head and he gave a limp nod. He knew it was over. Koharu however didn't, and looked like she swallowed something sour. She tried, my lord, surely we can talk dash. Udatane, be silent. This meeting was, in the end, going to result in your removal from your position anyway. Even if it hasn't happened yet, I couldn't possibly have someone in my cabinet going behind my back to do things. You were to be the Hokage's advisors, nothing more, nothing less. You were awarded power from the Sandaime, and you squandered it, abused it, and now, created a mess I have to clean up. You too, and Shimura, have set us back. We could have used the extra manpower for Orochimaru's invasion. We could have used the extra manpower for the days to come with the Akatsuki, the same group of missing nin that has a member who knows the ins and outs of this village. And he's not even loyal to it any further. You heard my conversation with Shimura on the tape. Let me remind you again that the Akatsuki is a group of S-rank ninjas who plan to hunt down the Jinchuriki and capture them. If they can do so, which I am inclined to believe due to the recent reports of Kirigakure losing their Jinchuriki, then Naruto Uzumaki and the rest of the village are in danger. Not to mention we have Itachi Uchiha's last relative here in our village. Sooner or later, Itachi will show up here with the Akatsuki for Naruto and even Sasuke. Then we got another issue of another person, or faction, who may even be aiding the Akatsuki. Someone out there, who is a danger to our village, helped Itachi break the Koto Amatsukami and allowed him into the Akatsuki. And a Uzumaki at that. And you have no idea who that is, do you? Silence was his answer. The Hokage shook his head. They're a threat to this village all the same. For all the trouble you created to prevent a potential overthrowing of the village, you three have only succeeded in weakening our village and helping our enemies. Danzo is already suffering. You two still want to be a part of my cabinet? Kohara now looked down, giving the Godame Hokage the same limp nod that Himura had given before. The old woman queried, "What will our punishment be?" "I have half a mind to send all three of you to Hozuki Castle." Hamura and Koharu's eyes bugged out, and they both started sweating again. "Fortunately, I'm not about to pay Kizugakure's absurd price of keeping you all there for years to come. You are already retired ninjas as it is, so as far as I'm concerned, I don't need to strip you of your ranks. Until the day you die, you'll be on house arrest." Jiraiya snapped and two ANBU-type ninjas appeared. "Now, I'll have ANBU escort you to your homes. Good evening to you, civilians." As they disappeared, Jiraiya and Tsunade were alone in the office. A silence began between them before Jiraiya brought out a bottle of alcohol, chilled sake to be more precise, and 2 cups. A poof of smoke and a simple wooden chair was summoned into the room. "Grab that seat, will you?" Tsunade did just that, almost slamming her ass down as she grabbed for the cup and the bottle. Jiraiya filled his cup after her and sat down at his desk. After a cheers, from both of them, Jiraiya heaved out a breath. Well, that ended well. Naturally, Tsunade returned. She quickly downed her drink before commenting, Midokado and Udatane probably should have been dealt with a worse fate than being sent home, Jiraiya. "Oh? What were you thinking? Spot execution? They just admitted to treason." He swallowed some of his drink. He sighed in thought. "Tempting, but I don't feel like wasting time on that. Midokado and Udatane don't seem like they will be problems. Danzo said they might have men loyal to them, but that suspicion needs to be explored more, instead of the little time we have been given. I guess, Tsunade allowed, although she didn't sound all too convinced. Plus, if they are out there, and my former counselors decide to bring them out, we'll deal with them, the Godame finished his point confidently, grabbing his cup for a drink. Tsunade nodded eventually, understanding his logic. Wait until they attacked, if they ever were going to attack. She didn't agree with the leniency for the two former counselors entirely, but there was nothing much she could do about it. Either way, she and the Hokage would have enough time to come up with a contingency plan if it came to that. You think those two have a formidable force that will retaliate? Doubt it, truthfully, but I don't know the numbers. I have a squad to watch their moves already. I don't believe Danzo entirely when he made it seem like he and the former counselors didn't have much contact over the years. If anything, all of those loyal to Mitokado and Udatane could be carryovers from Root. However, he didn't seem especially loyal to them, so that probably means his Root isn't looking after them. I don't think we have to worry about them. We'll take care of them as they come. You sound pretty sure about that. The Godane gave Tsunade a shrug. I'll be honest, I doubt they even have that kind of pull. Unlike Danzo, I can't see the charisma? I suppose that's an apt word for it. Yeah, I doubt they have the charisma to have many people follow them. They truly are just two retiree shinobi with fewer resources than Danzo ever had, besides their political power. Power you just removed. The Hokage nodded at Tsunade. Before taking another sip of his sake, Jiraiya paused to stare out his window, watching as the night overtook Konoha. The calm before the storm. Can you feel it, princess? Yeah, Tsunade replied, half distracted, as she already was pouring herself a second shot. After a bit, she gathered her thoughts and commented, all in all, this went smoothly. Too smoothly. He gave her a smirk and a raised eyebrow. Still worried, even after I gave that entire speech? Bah! I should worry about all of that. Not my new, sole, and might I add, gorgeous, advisor. The Senju heir rolled her amber-colored eyes but still couldn't hide her small smile. If you say so. Although, as your new advisor, I'm going to worry about future events. Like about our former snaky friends' followers. I know you aren't just waiting for them to come through. Maybe we are. Jiraiya shrugged, finishing his first cup. He started to pour another one. We're on lock here. Beefed up security. We've got most of our border watch on the Hyoto border. Ebisu scouring Hinokuni looking for any sort of them hiding. Other than that, we've been doing some raiding of Orochimaru's former hideouts, but a lot of them are abandoned. Hideouts? Jiraiya's advisor blinked. I thought Orochimaru started up a village in Oto no Kuni. From what I gathered about Otogakure, Orochimaru's little village was more sort of a ragtag type of group. Not a huge militia in a centered village, but groups of people in several locations in Oto no Kuni. From what I gathered just recently, his reach even stretched outside Oto. Oh? Yeah, Jiraiya started to explain, putting his cup down on a saucer. Every location was like a base. The bases were small and you couldn't house an entire shinobi there. Not like here. The largest base Anbu has uncovered in Oto no Kuni so far was confirmed to be a place Orochimaru liked to frequent as well, and it housed a large amount of his shinobi. They were dealt with. But that was just a major base, not his main one. That one remains to be seen. So far, all we've found and destroyed were smaller ones. A lot of those bases were already abandoned, so most of the Oto ninjas there either ran away, knowing we were coming for them, cut ties with Oto altogether, or they're hiding out in between the countries. But they're like rats, Tsunade. They turn up soon, and they will either end up dead or wishing they were. No one fucks with Konoha? The Hokage's teammate raised her cup at him. No one fucks with Konoha, Jiraiya confirmed, clinking his glass with Tsunade. A silence began between the two. They quietly drank the alcohol and relished the taste. It was soon broken up with the Toad Sage's contented sigh. Well, at least today went off just fine. Jiraiya woke up the next morning, feeling the opposite of what he felt. Yesterday, he felt he had been the champion of this all. He got all the information he wanted, learned of a newer enemy in the hills, and got rid of 2 annoying bumps that were on his backside. Today, he was reminded that there was still the issue of Otogakure and some boogeyman that Orochimaru was soon to unleash in Konoha. Maybe along with Orochimaru's militia, one Konoha did not want to fight when they were still licking their wounds from the invasion. Worse, outside of the Orochimaru saga, he was reminded that there was some unknown Uzumaki that may want to cause harm to Konohagakure in some sort of fashion. Or at the least freed someone who might wanted to, Itachi Uchiha. And that wasn't even counting the problem with the Akatsuki, who were looking to snatch up the Jinchuriki. Then he got some more troubling news. Later in the day, Tsunade handed the Godame Hokage a letter. Came straight from the Konoha Aviary Station. Letter to you, stamped. He checked the stamp and saw the symbol was the familiar insignia of his spy network. Jiraiya tore into the letter, and read up the person who sent it to him. It was from Agent Kurokuma, one of his spies with activity in the western part of the continent. This month, Kurokuma had been in Kaze no Kuni, keeping tabs on Sunagakure. The man had written in very few words, but it painted a very, albeit dramatic, vivid picture. Suna 1 attacked at dawn. Dawn failed. 3 of them. 2 of strange blood, 1 of seal working from an old clan. Konoha 9 safe, however, wasn't their initial target. Dawn retreated to the Kaze-Ishi border. Suna 1 meant Gaara. Not the most original codename for the Jinchuriki, but it worked all the same. The name of his village, Suna, and the one in the codename meaning his tailed beast, the Ichibi. Every one of the identified Jinchuriki got aliases like that, something he had cooked up decades ago. Konoha 9 was a no-brainer of who that was. Jiraiya rubbed the bridge of his nose. Of course, Naruto got involved. Damn brat. I got him out of the village to keep out of trouble. Dawn was an easy one. That meant the Akatsuki, as their name meant literally dawn. Strange blood was a dramatic way to say Kekkei Genkai, which had Jiraiya roll his eyes. Not his code word. Seal working meant a Fuinjutsu user, and context clues gave him the impression the old clan part was a reference to the Uzumaki. It made sense because the Akatsuki were already employing an Uzumaki, so more showing up didn't sound too weird. A team from the Akatsuki made of Uzumaki sounded especially dangerous for a tailed beast and its vessel. However, the fact that Kurokuma said there were 3 of them was the odd part. The Akatsuki always paired up, never having a team of 3. Although they could easily change up their formula, especially if they wanted to capture a tailed beast, a feeling that there was something else at play here that Jiraiya could not shake off. A 3-man cell didn't sound like Akatsuki, and they weren't the only band of high-ranking missing nin out there that could cause trouble. Ugh, what an annoyance, Jiraiya inwardly complained, which soon was audibly displayed with a groan. What happened? Tsunade queried. This letter was from one of my men out there. Spy? What did he report? Suna got attacked. To be exact, their Jinchuriki was attacked. And not ours? Naruto was on that mission to Suna, right? Tsunade frowned, her brow raising. Their target wasn't Naruto. He's safe, Jiraiya assuaged, but then gave her a wry smile. Still, he got himself involved. It seems he decided to help Gaara. The Senju woman sucked her teeth, seeming to figure out what that meant. That moron. That's what I said to myself too, but, still, at least he's safe. The Hokage gave her a grin. I'll give him a dress down or something when he gets home. That seems to be the usual these days. Tsunade trailed off, in a sarcastic mutter. Still, Jiraiya continued, placing the letter on his desk. Akatsuki is getting bolder. I wasn't expecting such an attack so soon from them. Especially not with some weird 3-man cell. 3-people team? What's so weird about that? They usually run 2 people per cell for a job. Them going out in this style just doesn't make sense. Is it that strange? His advisor shrugged. They changed it up this time, so what? Might just be me since I have watched this group for years now, he admitted. Sarutobi-sensei had me keeping tabs on that group for a while. We already have spying networks centered around our rivals and their name kept coming up. One big village that likes to use them is Iwagakure. But Suchikage loves employing these guys to do things he doesn't like his shinobi doing, and they usually get the job reliably with reasonable timing and prices. It always worrisome for a group of missing nin, one so unchecked like this, to be operating, especially for our enemies. That doesn't mean much. It just doesn't fit their past course of structuring a team. Again, that just might be me. The Hokage shrugged, a frown forming on his face. Itachi and Kisame, when they showed up for Naruto, they were a duo. The teams I saw in action were duos. Hell, even the off-duty Kakuzu and Shiro were a two-man team. This team wasn't wearing the colors of the Akatsuki and there were 3 of them. Even if I could see the idea of the 3-man cell thing being weird, I don't think them not wearing the Akatsuki colors means anything. If we were in a group with some notoriety attached to our name, we probably wouldn't flag our colors either. Maybe, it was some sort of team affiliated with them. Not directly the Akatsuki, but in alliance with them. The newly made advisor of the Hokage placed a hand on his desk and leaned forward. Jiraiya probably would appreciate the view more if he wasn't still buried in thoughts. The way you're making it sound like it's as if these shinobi are some new group. That's exactly what I'm getting at. If the Akatsuki are brazen enough to think they can capture the Jinchuriki, what makes you think there can't be other groups who think the same? And if they got someone like the Uzumaki clan in it, that group can surely get it done. Something to think about, but Jiraiya paused to sag into his chair with a deep sigh. I got not a single shred of information to go on. And that's where you stop that train of thought. No sense in worrying about it until we know for sure, the Senju Scion allayed, seemingly seeing the cogs running in her former teammate's head and trying to shut down the machine. Fine, but I just can't shake the feeling that the 3-man Akatsuki team sounds wrong. In any case, you're right. Things worked out just fine. Naruto and Gaara are safe and all is sunny in Sunigakure. Still a bit worried since another Uzumaki showed up. You didn't mention that, you moron. That gave Tsunade some pause. You think this Uzumaki dash? The Hokage gave her a deadpan. Didn't you just say not to think about things I have no information to go on? Forget it. The Senju Scion shook her head, looking a bit embarrassed. Wait, how come the bird got here first and not Naruto? Even how fast these messenger birds fly, Naruto's team should have been back here about an hour or 2 behind, right? Knowing how terrible Suna's weather can get quickly, a sandstorm hit the area, I gander? Actually, yeah, that makes sense. Well, if we're lucky, we can glean some more information from him and Asuma when they get back. Hopefully. They had escaped Sunigakure and Kaze no Kuni with their lives. This was Karen's first real mission in a major enemy territory. Soon as Anbu chased them to the Kaze-Ishi border, and only the cover of the sandstorm that moved in the region by the afternoon of the next day helped them. Since they had traveled north into Ishi no Kuni, they hadn't had to worry about the storm, but their pursuers had to. Luckily, the dust storm had started to cover the south of Kaze no Kuni first, meaning Sunigakure wouldn't be able to easily pursue them. They hadn't had to travel all in one session either. After resting inside an earthen construction conjured up by Tatsuya, and Karen making sure she used a seal that acted much like her chakra suppression technique, they weren't detected by Anbu and had gotten some well-needed rest. The escape out of Kaze no Kuni had been more pleasant then. They had made it into Ishi no Kuni without having to fight. Traveling a bit into Ishi no Kuni until it was the late afternoon, and making sure they weren't too close to Ishigakure or some other shinobi village to be detected, Karen's team came to rest near a large stone. Karen-sama, Tatsuya started, briefly scratching his short blue hair. Call Yui-sama. The female Uzumaki nodded, unbuttoning and rolling up the right sleeve of her lilac blouse. Drawing chakra to her arm, a black ink tattoo appeared. 2 spirals surrounded a single black kanji symbol, reading contact. Another application and the symbol glowed blue. All three of them touched her arm seal and raised their hands to their temples. A few seconds later, an older female voice spoke, "Karen-chan, so good to hear from you again. I hope things went well." "It did not," Karen responded flatly. "We failed to capture the Ichibi Jinchuriki." "Ah, but you sound like you're still alive, despite not having Gaara with you. You got all your parts with you too, I assume. I heard Gaara likes to maim his enemies." Karen still didn't share Yui's humor. "I assume Yumi-chan and Tatsuya are fine too. Were you expecting different?" "How macabre, Yui-sama," answered Tatsuya, this time in a similar deadpan to the Uzumaki women. "We called to update you and find the quickest way home. As much as we would love to keep chatting with you, please, point us to where can we meet one of your sigils." "Where are you?" "Somewhere in Ishi no Kuni. The closest one I would recommend to you all is in Kusa no Kuni, nearing the Takikusa border." Karen should be able to sense it. Karen flinched at the mention of Kusa. "Alright, speak to you soon, in another day or two." Tatsuya removed his hand from Karen's forearm and patted her on the shoulder. "We shall be okay, Karen-sama. We will try to avoid Kusagakure altogether. I promise you that. For now, let's try to take things slowly." "Yes, Tatsuya-sensei." Across the continent, going west of Unokuni, was Oto no Kuni, the former conquered lands of Orochimaru. Once beautiful lands flushed with wide, sprawling rice fields, lush forests, and a brevity of rivers, Oto no Kuni had become a battlefield for leaderless ninjas serving two sides. One for those who were loyal to their former master and leader, Orochimaru, and those who wanted to run away. The loyalists, thanks to the efforts of those in power on the side, had won. Whatever sort of rogue ninja or rebel either reconsidered fleeing Oto no Kuni or died trying to escape. Then, they went to the prisons and cells that housed many of Orochimaru's experiments and quelled any sort of rebellion. It was cold as it was to think of people like that, but it was the truth. They were experiments and they would stay inside, with strong enough people to guard them. Kimimaro then brought those strong enough and bunched them up, creating a settlement that served as the main base of sorts for Otogakure. Currently, Kimimaro stands in as the leader of Otogakure. Once Orochimaru returned to life, he would retake his throne as the supreme leader, and Otogakure would once more rise to its former glory. However, as it stood now, Kimimaro was Otogakure's village head and was tasked with a mission to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha. The teen had said that Orochimaru spoke through him through his seal. One would believe that to be impossible, but it was something Guren believed because others who were branded with Orochimaru's Juinjutsu had said the same in the past, that Orochimaru could communicate with them at any time. Guren lacked Orochimaru's marking, which slumped her with dejection every time she remembered that fact. Oh, how she wished to hear her master's voice again in these uncertain times. In any case, Kimimaro had set out to go to Kanahagakure to capture Sasuke Uchiha. He had taken the Sound Four with him as his backup. Their mission was simple: sneak into the village, capture the Uchiha boy, and then return to Oto. With no other person equaling him in power, the Kaguya had left her in charge. And when Guren had thought it was to be peace, at least until Kimimaro returned with Sasuke Uchiha, the entirety of Otogakure was once again being torn down in this late afternoon. The land, once green, burned as a plume of fire and flame turned it all to ash. Shinobi caught in the blaze screamed and cried loudly through the darkening afternoon as they were immolated. The ones who dodged the ninjutsu were soon bisected by an arched wave of water. The last of the cannon fodder that survived those two ordeals was skewered by countless stone spikes jutting from the ground. "Ah, man. I thought he would be in Hino Kuni at least by now," came the random comment of a man. He started to stroke his chin in thought as he stood on the battlefield, unaware of the chaos unfolding. Or uncaring. She isn't here either. At least with the boy, I know where's going to turn up, but the girl. In the darkening skies, Guren could make out the man's amused smile as she raced over. "Oh, who are you lot?" Guren's team came down next. Narari, Kajiri, and Gozu surrounded the man from three angles. They were the frontline element ninjutsu users and the heavy hitters in the squad outside of her help. Rinji was in a tree, ready to apply some long-range, bat-related ninjutsu, as was Kiho with his smoke techniques. Yukimaru, the youngest and freshest shinobi of the group, stood at her side cautiously but had a kunai up, ready to fight. "Who are you?" Guren called out from a short distance. "Ichiro, I am called," the man said cheerfully. Guren took in Ichiro's long red hair, a matching goatee, violet eyes, and old-styled, gray-plated armor over a green kimono. Red spirals were painted on the shoulders of the kimono. "Are you not going to be nice and tell me your name?" "Guren," she retorted, narrowing her onyx-colored eyes. "Are you the one responsible for this chaos?" "A mere misunderstanding, you see." A hailstorm of crystal skewers rained down on the shinobi. Guren watched as the man jumped in the air. Smoke was shot out from Kiho's position. Next, Narare created and threw syrup-like projectiles to subdue the man as Kijiri created a fireball that consumed the man. It was too fast for most to dodge. The man reappeared, however, smiling. He was unscathed. "You sure you can't just let me go and you ignoring this transgression?" Guren growled at the blasé attitude, both at Ichiro's words and the fact that he didn't seem all that bothered by their attacks. "You destroyed our village, killed our men, and you want me to let you go? What was this all for? Revenge against Orochimaru-sama? Nah, I don't really care about that snake. He's long gone away. I'm here for someone else. A girl. Uzumaki." "One person? You're doing this for one regular person?" Guren gaped at Ichiro. "They're family. And we Uzumaki take family very seriously." The man revealed his heritage with a proud smile. "And I tried asking nicely before, but it seems like they got the wrong idea and attacked me first. Can't blame me for defending myself." "Are you insane?" Guren questioned, trying to make sense of the assault on her village. "Very sane actually. You came here and destroyed the lands and lives, for one person. You're an insane fool. We have no quarrel with you." "True, came the soft tenor of the red-haired man. "Truthfully, I have no problem with you either. I'm here on some business. Just that. Not here to stick it to Orochimaru, no. He has, had, one of my people here. Never got around to getting them until now. Been busy, you see. I'm here to collect them as my duty to my clan and my nation. I see my kin has left for the south, so I won't be here for long. Instead, I'll just end this battle peacefully. Especially with the state of this place. Now that I'm out here, I can see what's Otogakure really like, a shithole." Orochimaru left his subjects to fend for themselves. "You call this place that, but you added more to our problems. If you think I'm going to just let you go dash." The man interrupted, scratching his face. "I mean, aren't you? We're just sitting here shooting the breeze while watching this roaring fire blaze on in the background. You haven't raised your blade at me again, and your teammates are just watching what to do next. They don't look like they want to fight, and neither do you. You do have more pressing matters at stake here, little Domu, instead of fighting little Olmi. Don't tell me what I want and don't want." Guren's frown deepened, annoyance and confusion on her countenance. "And what is this Domu?" Don't know what you are?" Orochimaru has had a lot of people in his employment. A lot of people's chakras here are unique and interesting. Your team is no different. Lots of minor hidden techniques and Kekkai Genkai abilities from clans I once thought were dead. Your chakra too, Ichiro pointed at Guren, is telling me you're from the Domo clan, once a great clan with amazing earth-based Kekkai Gekkai. I should know. I deal with one on the reg. My son and all. The Oto Kunoichi gritted her teeth. All this talking and ranting. You think you know so much. But I am no Domu or whoever you think I am. I am Orochimaru-sama's most loyal shinobi. Loyalty to a dead man? Ichiro easily swatted away a kunai-shaped crystal that was aimed at his head. Unbothered, he continued, you know what? I think you all are very interesting here. We don't have to fight. Matter of fact, why don't you all come with me? What are you saying now? Calm down and think about what I'm trying to say. I offer you all the choice to come to my lands and help my village. In turn, you will have a home and a place to call your own. You see, I'm recruiting people. I want you to join me. Trade one master for another, spoke up Rinji this time in a skeptical tone, revealing his place in the tree. What do you offer better than Orochimaru-sama? From what she could see, Narari and Kajiri nodded, keeping a steady glance at the man. She could not see Kiho. Gozu only stared and Yukimaro continued to cower. Guren spun her head around, commanding, "Don't entertain him, Rinji. That goes for you all as well. We only serve one master. Again, a dead one at that, one that can't even help you protect your meager lands. I offer you all a true home, a shelter, not just some random base you reside at and await orders and forced experimentation." The Uzumaki scoffed. Orochimaru wasn't the kindest leader to you all. I've seen some of the other places Orochimaru got around this country. Jail cells, labs, and fighting pits. It was disgusting. I simply had to shut them down. Who decided you could judge him? I doubt you're any better. I can judge him because I am better than him. Oof. Has he truly indoctrinated you, Has Orochimaru made you believe those places were for the betterment of all? You are no better than the men and women in those cages. You're all prisoners of Orochimaru, tools to use and throw away when you outlived your purpose. But I am not trying to enslave you. Where I am at, what I offer you, you can be so much more than here. Join me. The Uzumaki held his hand out. Orochimaru has given us strength to kick back at the world, Durin claimed, priming her chakra. We certainly don't need you to fill his place. You may believe that, but do the rest of you believe that? The blue-haired Kunoichi acknowledged the hesitation of most of her teammates, who did not raise their weapons, with barely contained rage. The Uzumaki continued with his honeyed words. All you have to do is forget about Otogakure. Orochimaru isn't here. Why stay? Why protect something you may not even care about? I told you, we only serve one master. You talk too much, and that's coming from me. Do you even know you're not letting your friends get a word in? That's because I am their leader. Guren turned her head to her teammates, pinning each of them with a heated stare. And if any of you get the idea of turning, I'll make sure you'll regret it. They all raised their weapons then. So, that's it, huh? A little threat from her and you all are ready to just give up? Ichiro shrugged. Fine, suit yourself. I guess I gotta show you why you chose Roan. A few minutes later, she found that killing the man was nigh impossible and one of her greatest challenges. Early in the battle, she had set out to finish the Uzumaki quickly with a blade of blue crystal formed on her forearm. A deadly dance of taijutsu had begun. She had been one of Otogakure's best taijutsu users, ahead of the Sound Force Sakan/Yukon twins and right behind Kimimaro and Orochimaru themselves. Yet, this man matched her fighting with ease, comfortable with using just a dagger to counter her blows. In a climactic part of their first round of fighting, he had managed to punt her away with a kick that, even with her using armor made out of crystal to further protect herself, put her nearly out of commission. Gozu immediately helped her. Her teammate produced a ninjutsu hardening mud that stuck the feet of the man gave a chance for her to do so, but the red-headed man quickly escaped it with his own mastery of earth manipulation and hit her with a palm strike to her chest. The attack hurt, of course, but that wasn't the main problem. The problem was she had been hit with a seal. The man applied a few ninjutsu and she felt her chakra losing control when her crystal armor sputtered out and the technique prematurely finished. Ichiro tried closing the distance shortly afterward. In response, she sent out a barrage of crystal spears at her enemy, noting how much chakra that took from her. Doing that relatively average ninjutsu made her chakra reserves drop considerably. Her control of her Kekkai Genkai had been absolutely perfect, now it reminded her of when she first awoken to the power of the crystal release. But the barrage of crystal projectiles did deter Ichiro for a few seconds. Retreating in that time span, the blue-haired Kunoichi had backed off and allowed her teammates to deal with the Uzumaki. She had not rejoined the battle, trying to see if she could flare her chakra to overwhelm the seal. All it did was make her waste more of her chakra. She had started to feel a bit winded, which was a first in a while. Not since her early training days with Orochimaru had Guren felt she was being pushed. Her chakra reserves were dense and large from years of activity, and now they were being tested because of a seal that wouldn't go off. Besides Orochimaru and the Sound Four, nobody in Otogekyure, let alone in Guren's team, knew how to perform Fuinjutsu. That meant she was going to be handicapped in the battle. The rest of her team knew it was time to step in. Renji had been the first one dead. Shuriken stars littered his cadaver. Out of all the members of Team Guren, Renji was never a frontline fighter, having affinities with scouting and spying instead. One could hear the loud whistling of a barrage of shuriken flying through the air, especially when it's done with a technique like the Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu. With his summoning of bats, Renji could easily have dodged that. However, chains made out of pure chakra rooted his feet to the ground, and he could do little as a plethora of shuriken was dumped into his body. Narari lasted longer and escaped death from the Shuriken Kagebunshin no Jutsu by creating a slimy shield that absorbed the kunai like rubber. He even tried throwing it back, but a blazing inferno from a fire release technique nearly overpowered the shield and put an end to his counter. Narari abandoned the strategy and was on defense as Ichiro closed the distance. With his suit, Narari had a plethora of water at his disposal, and the body modifications Orochimaru-sama gave him allowed him to dodge the man's taijutsu with relative ease. However, Narari himself could not touch the enemy shinobi. Narari and the Uzumaki then traded water release techniques for a while. It was clear the Uzumaki shinobi was merely having fun doing that, but, in the end, when Narari tried using another one of his water release techniques, water's natural counter, earth, shut down any more fighting from Narari. He was carried away from the shinobi with a river coming from the Doton, Dori Ataiga technique and a dragon made of mud, earth, and stone gored through his entire frame. Kajiri and Kiho tried combining their smoke ninjutsu, with Kajiri providing yellowing smoke and Kiho using the smokescreen to create and send smoke dragons toward Ichiro's way. However, the dragons were made of smoke, not solid matter. Ichiro merely created a wall of water to have the dragons harmlessly dissipate against it, and further manipulated the water out in a wave as if the smoke didn't hinder him in finding out where the two men were. Kajiri tried using black smoke to blind and capture the man, but he wasn't fast enough, and a fast wave of water that had cutting power sliced at him. He saw it, but at the last moment, and it cost him an arm. The water had sliced it off from the shoulder blade. He howled, and fell to the floor, clearly out for the count as he tried to figure out ways to stop bleeding. Instead of finishing Kajiri off, the man turned to Guren and those crowded near her. Gozu sent a wave of dark sludge towards Ichiro, allowing Guren to perform a ninjutsu that summoned earthen pillars that rose her teammates into the sky, all except Kajiri, who was as good as dead in her opinion. Kiho, Guren, Yukimaru, and Gozu remained standing on raised pillars. Guren had no illusions that the man couldn't get them from down there, but he did not seem willing to do that. Instead, he tried talking again. "Do we have to fight?" The Uzumaki man sighed. "I hate to kill a Domo clanmate. My son is one too. Oh, it would be like killing an Uzumaki myself. Your kind's numbers have dwindled, like my clan, Domo-chan. Why not join my village? Your clan once served the Uzumaki clan well. I am no Domu. I am Guren of Otogekyure. I am me, and only me," Guren spat out venomously. Her lips then twisted into a sneer. "You're an Uzumaki, as you keep saying. Your clan was already exterminated before. I don't see how I can't continue what other nations have started. I shall send you to the rest of your people." The Uzumaki's face darkened. "Fine, I suppose I wasted too much time here. The Uzumaki I am after has left south to the Valley of the End anyway. I'll just say to my son that you were a lost cause. I would keep the offer for you, Mudman and Smoke Men, but your team leader just sent you to your deaths." And then chains exploded from his body. Gyurin took Yukimaro into her arms and jumped off the pillars. Loud, almost deafening sounds of stone exploding from the vertical stone pillar were created, followed by the stones falling to the grass. Gozu had jumped off his pillar, and with strength she didn't possess, repurposed the fallen rock by tossing the boulders at the man. The Uzumaki resummoned the chains and pulverized the rock even further. Gozu shot out his mouth a volley of mud balls to the feet of the Uzumaki, attempting to slow him down, but they never hit their target. Before the Uzumaki could counterattack though, Kiho had lobbed a smoke grenade from his launcher at the man, and a plume of yellow smoke filled the battlefield again. At that point, Kajiri had seemed to return to battle, fury apparent in his gray eyes. He looked like he cauterized the wound with some application of a fire-release ninjutsu. Gyurin imagined he simply kept fighting because he was being fueled with pure adrenaline and hatred. Kajiri shot out a one-handed searing fireball that, as Gyurin remembered it doing when it hit a target, the fireball exploded on contact. It hit the Uzumaki contact. However, instead of a simple and localized fiery explosion, in the enemy's place a large watery explosion detonated and the shockwave blew back everyone nearby. She reacted only fast enough to protect Yukimaro by grabbing him as they slammed into a nearby tree, shielding Yukimaro with her body so she took the brunt of the hit. Gozu slid across the floor and from what she had seen, was now sporting more than a few bruises and nasty wounds. His durable body was the only thing that saved him from more grievous injuries since his proximity to the enemy Uzumaki was close. Kajiri had been the closest, and Gyurin had no hopes that he would be alive after that. The smoke cleared and Gyurin's belief had been confirmed right. Her former teammate had been crushed by the water explosion's pressure, his cadaver looking deflated. As the Uzumaki came out of nowhere and drove a kunai through the throat of Kiho, she realized that Ichiro had used a clone on them. The smoke had dissipated by then. Yukimaro stirred, looking up at his leader with concerned magenta eyes. Gyurin? And maybe I should use the power dash. The older woman shook her head, standing them both up. Don't bother, Yukimaro. You barely have control of it as it is. Orochimaru-sama couldn't teach you all the way how to control that power before he died, remember? Just stay out of this. I will take care of this man. Gee Gyurin, let me help you guys. Yes, let that one help, Domo-chan. I see he hasn't once used a technique. Ichiro commented as he appeared from a short distance from them. Gyurin immediately threw him away. Why isn't he allowed to help? Stay here, Yukimaro, Gyurin ordered. With a hand seal, a pink crystal dome started to surround her youngest teammate. She coated it with an extra layer of earth release chakra, to make the crystal harder to break. But Gyurin dash. We will handle it. She tried to reassure him, not wanting him to do anything. She couldn't trust her own skills to stop Yukimaro should things go wrong since her chakra was acting up. Orochimaru-sama was not here to help either. She didn't wait for the boy to respond as she rushed towards her enemy. Gozu found his second wind as well as he stretched his arm at Ichiro, sporting a fist sheathed in stone. The Uzumaki evaded and tried slamming an elbow into Gozu's face, but the man's face became mud, as did the rest of his body, signifying the usage of a clone ninjutsu. The mud glued onto him. Running at Ichiro, Gyurin pulled the moisture from the air and directed sharp spears of blue crystals to the Uzumaki. The man used Kawirimi and her crystals bounced off a rock. Not waiting for him to reappear, she used her previous ninjutsu's leftover crystals and summoned a crystal mirror. 2 clones of her own came out. Durable clones would distract the Uzumaki and help Gozu while she started her strongest ninjutsu. The clones used their limited chakra differently. One created a wave of skewering crystals that grew out of the ground. He jumped in the air, which prompted another clone to summon a crystal shuriken and shoot it out at him. The Uzumaki created his chain ninjutsu again. Golden chains erupted from his person as they glowed in the evening. He took them and spun violently, whipping and destroying the fragile crystal shuriken. He then used the chains to grab one of the clones and threw it into the other one. They both exploded into thousands of shards of crystals. The distraction served its purpose, however. Shirsho Tenketsu, she announced, feeling her dwindling chakra pool spike and spill over, so to speak. In return, she had to ignore a new feeling of lightheadedness. More chakra to counteract her weakening amount of control of her energy. I have to hand it to you. It's amazing you're resisting my seal, even after having your chakra go out of whack from it, the Uzumaki praised her, still unconcerned with anything they were doing. He gave her a smirk. I wonder how long you can keep fighting it. The insufferable Uzumaki then dodged Gozo's fist casually. He retaliated with a slap to the man's face, too fast for Gozo to counter properly like last time. A seal blowed on her teammate's cheek, which stopped his movements. Ichiro then stomped and sent a wave of liquid at the man, who had no time to use his earth release as the fluid shot him away into a tree. A ram hand seal later from Ichiro and Gozo was glued to the tree as the liquid's viscosity was transformed to make it sticky. He regarded Guren again. And this is a pretty interesting technique too. So much chakra is brimming from you. What will you do now, I wonder? Instead of going for her, Ichiro went to finish off Gozo, forcing Guren to use another ninjutsu. 2 more crystal mirrors were formed, and more clones were left to contend with the Uzumaki and save Gozo. Her clones wove the hand seals from board her ram. Pink crystals connected to form several jade-colored-eyed crystal dragons. The dragons rushed past Gozo to their enemy. The Uzumaki shinobi stood his ground and sent forth a ninjutsu. Kongo Fusa. The chains from before lashed out in an attack, whipping at her constructions. Strong enough to break her crystals before and then the rock, she wasn't surprised that the dragons were destroyed by the chains too, but it was all for distraction. By the time he did the flashy chain whip fighting, she had risen to the sky in a translucent crystal prism. She manipulated the air and focused her chakra to the best of her ability. A strong beam of powerful heat charged up before she released it. Shotan Ishikomyo. The blue burning laser blasted at the Uzumaki. It traveled way too fast for the man to dodge, she had to believe that. Her chakra was taxed, it had to end here. Blue light filled the battlefield, an audible explosion was heard. With the lingering vestiges of her chakra, Guren floated her crystal prism over the crater her energy attack caused. When the gray smoke dispersed, Ichiro was lying there, motionless. Guren's crystal prism finally ended with a pathetic sputter. Assessing that her stamina and chakra were now too low to continue fighting, Guren fell. She gasped, greedily taking in oxygen while clutching her chest. Gee gods, damn it. The Otogakure loyalist tried crawling to Yukimaru, but she stopped when she heard a sound that she didn't want to hear, the sound of a clone popping. She soon felt herself also being glued to a tree with the same sticky liquid Gozo was trapped in. Guren growled weakly, as the Uzumaki man walked up to her with a kunai. Sorry, Tatsuya, the man uttered loudly enough for Guren to hear. Couldn't save this one. But before he could drive the kunai into her throat, Ichiro stopped and turned around. A loud shattering of crystal was heard. Guren felt a wave of bloodlust, killing intent, and fear gripped her stomach. Yukimaru had stood there, a red-orange aura rising from every pore of his body. Damn, that boy. No, Yukimaru. Leave Guren alone. I was wondering when you would become an issue, Ichiro chirped with a smirk. A Jinchuriki. So that's what chakra I was sensing from you. Let's see what Orochimaru has been teaching you, little man. The red-headed Uzumaki did this goading while a hand of chakra floated over his head and threatened to crush him as it came down. He sped away and reappeared with the golden chains from before. He sent them out at the boy, but Yukimaru, displaying dexterity and speed that even surprised her, weaved through the array of chains, a hand cocked back to smack Ichiro. Yukimaru clocked the Uzumaki with a punch to the face, but that accomplished not much as Ichiro exploded with a violent waterfall that had enough concussive force to push back the now Biju-empowered Yukimaru. I'll kill you. Yukimaru declared madly, now dipping more into the influence of the Biju's chakra. Doubt it, Ichiro egged on with the same smirk as before. The more I peer into your chakra, the more I know that you are a pseudo-Jinchuriki with very little training with that chakra. Seems like all Orochimaru did was make a weapon without polishing it. You know, I only saw this once before in the Third War from a true Jinchuriki, who might I add you look a lot like. Truly fearsome chakra, even if it's just a piece of it. The boy snarled animalistically as a retort, crouched and his aura bubbled again. Out of his back, sprung up a tail made of the volatile Biju chakra. All did Ichiro was stand in place. Guren watched helplessly as Yukimura sped off to the Uzumaki, only to be forced back with that river of earth again, and a bullet of water hit her young teammate in the chest. Yukimura screeched with pain, but the Suetun ninjutsu did not kill him. It stuck his petite body to a tree and was something similar to the sticky liquid that held Gozu and her in place. However, Yukimura's chakra was not spent like hers or suppressed like Gozu, and he, as he kept getting angrier, increased the usage of his demonic chakra to free himself. He didn't stop increasing the chakra. The boy started shifting more and more until Yukimura's body was transformed into a bulky dark red-orange mass that vaguely looked reptilian. Yukimura's chakra formed a shell and a horned head, as well as a three-pronged tail. Only one time she had seen this when the boy had gone berserk against Orochimaru months ago. The pseudo-Jinchuriki raised his head to show his ghastly white glowing eyes before he roared at the night sky monstrously. Guren was shaken, and she was sure even the usually stoic Gozu was too, but instead of using concern, Ichiro's confidence remained. She was reminded of Orochimaru. Yukimura roared again at Ichiro, this time producing a shockwave that she believed not even Ichiro was fast enough to dodge. The sound wave alone broke up the soil from the ground in an explosion. While she was at a distance to not feel the effect, Guren felt the tree she was on struggle to stay in the ground, as some of its roots shot up. Gozu's tree, which was close to where the Uzumaki and the pseudo-Jinchuriki were doing battle, unfortunately, lifted out of the dirt completely and the man was launched into the air. The tree slammed back into the ground in the distance. Guren did not know of Gozu's fate from there. Ichiro was gone for the moment, and she had hoped the force killed him. Yukimura seemed to think so too, as the demonic teen screeched in demented laughter. But he wasn't done. Yukimura opened his mouth, and particles both blue and red rose to a black ball being made. Guren had only seen this technique once when Orochimaru and the boy were training with it. If fired, it would devastate the landscape. Any sort of survivors of the pseudo-Jinchuriki's attack would die, possibly her and Gozu too, assuming he was even alive at this point, if the boy was too reckless. And no, Yukimura. The kunoichi tried calling out in a weak voice. It's over. You won. Then, familiar golden chains wrapped around the Sanbai pseudo-Jinchuriki. The boy struggled, as the chakra over his head hovered. Nope, I can't let you do that now, the Uzumaki announced his return. As interesting as it was, I do not want to see a Baijidama. Saw that in the Third War already, thank you. A clone of Ichiro formed in front of the writhing beast boy and yelled out, Kongo Fusa, Yokusei. First, the demonic chakra ball sputtered out of existence. Then, Yukimura's inhuman roars became petulant cries fitting for a growing teen as the Biju chakra receded into his seal. The boy looked spent and in pain. His skin was red and raw, and soon after his chakra was suppressed, he fell into a deep unconsciousness. Ichiro's clone watched over him, crouching down. Ichiro himself walked back over to her. Guren gasped, fear once again gripping at her. The Biju's chakra, even an iota of it, was supposed to be one of the most difficult things in the world to fight, and yet, the man handled it without so much of breaking a sweat. He even managed to suppress that power, which meant he more than likely matched Orochimaru in strength. Get away from him. Ichiro shook his head. Now why would I do that? A pseudo-Jinchuriki is too good to give up. Don't take Yukimura away from me. Tears started welling in her eyes. Enough, you're not his mother, the Uzumaki coldly stated, looking ready to bolt with the boy. He kept a hard look trained on her before he sighed. I don't want to kill you. You really are one of the few people of the Domo clan. A clan that I admired, and one my son is a part of. It's obvious you care about this boy. Guren helplessly watched as another clone of Ichiro picked her up, and she felt her chakra completely leave her as golden chains wrapped around her. It will be a shame to just kill you. You're coming with us, whether you like it or not, because look around you, Otogekure is no more. Don't worry about your boy either. He did a lot of damage to himself transforming like that, but luckily, I can heal him. Guren bit her lip. She could bark out that Kimimaro and his team were going to grab Sasuke Uchiha and that Orochimaru-sama was going to get him for what he's done, but seeing how easily he could have killed her and taken Yukimura from her forever and not given her a chance at something else, she didn't. She was truly loyal to Orochimaru, but Yukimura trumped that loyalty. So, she said and did nothing. There wasn't even so much of a squirm from her as Ichiro's clones moved her and Yukimura far from their creator. Where are we going? Where is he going? My creator said it so many times before, it's kinda getting tiring to say it again, Domo-chan, Ichiro sassed with an easygoing smile. He's got business finding the female Uzumaki, and that means going to Hino Kuni. Someone, you know? I know of no Uzumaki that was in Orochimaru's service, and the only kunoichi that went to Hino. She then paused, remembering the Uzumaki said his creator was going to Hino Kuni. Tayuya. You mean her? Tayuya, huh? Sounds like a pretty name. Sakura Haruno found herself at home most of the time if she wasn't slated to meet with her team. Like recently. It seemed lately that Kakashi-sensei was always out of town on a mission that had taken him away from Team 7 for some time. Naruto himself wasn't with Team 7 a lot these days, doing missions. Heck, he was on one now. And Sasuke. Sakura frowned, feeling her eyes burn a little thinking about her teammate. She could say she was used to Sasuke's rebuffs. He often said no to her date ideas, and to her invites to do something else after his training sessions, but it didn't deter her. In her opinion, it made her try harder. That last rebuff of his, however. She should be used to it, but it was. This one hurt, a lot. Sakura had known for a while that she was the weakest on her team. It had started when Team 7 entered the Chunin Exams. She had known Sasuke was one of the best genin of Konoha, and he showed it in the exams. Kakashi Hatake was a war veteran and a jonin, so enough was said about that. Naruto Uzumaki, however, was a shock to her that she had taken a while to finally get over. Naruto was always a buffoon in the academy to her. He was nothing but a child who was busier proclaiming that he would become a Hokage than actually actively training and getting stronger. He would spend his time skipping classes, pulling pranks, and, when he showed up for class, acting out and being a class clown. To her, Naruto's best attribute was his ability to fail. A 3-time failure who couldn't even perform the Bunshin no Jutsu, and an annoying pest who had too much in his head that she would go out with him on dates, it was no wonder Sakura hated that Naruto was on her team. She truly felt that the ramen-obsessed moron would do nothing but drag down Sasuke and her. But things had switched. Naruto had easily become one of the strongest genin of their generation. He had started to prove it in Nami no Kuni in the preliminaries of the Chunin Exams. Then, he made it to the finals after beating Niji in the Suna Kunoichi, before losing to the Kunoichi's younger, and more psychotic, brother, Gaara. Besides Shikamaru, Naruto had been the only one to become promoted to Chunin rank. And she believed now that Naruto was on the same level as Sasuke in terms of strength. She genuinely did. No other genin came close to his and Sasuke's prowess. And that included her. She would be fine with that if she wasn't far behind, but Sakura was nowhere near their level. It hurt her pride a little. Okay, it was a lot, but she felt like within time, she would get better. Take it slow and steady. She wasn't the ninjutsu powerhouse like the boys of Team 7, but she could find some other way to excel. She believed that. Then recently, the pink-haired Haruno realized that she had not been the only one who realized her standing as the genin. She remembered so vividly what happened 3 days ago. It was the usual humdrum of the day. Kakashi-sensei and Naruto both were out of the village on missions, so only Sakura and Sasuke were here in the village. Sasuke trained every day at their assigned training grounds. She, of course, went to accompany him and see how he was doing. Sasuke had been in a brooding, sour mood, but she hadn't thought it was any different than usual. Well, at first. He had been even more quiet and contemplative than usual. In hindsight, that probably had started with his and Naruto's incident and the meeting with the Hokage. She wasn't bothered. She enjoyed watching Sasuke move and train his taijutsu and seeing his ninjutsu. Or just about anything Sasuke had done when he was training. Everything about the Uchiha dazzled her. Eventually, he was done with his training. Sakura, of course, had to ask. She popped the question, "Do you want to get something to eat with me, Sasuke-kun?" At first, it was his usual quick and annoyed huff. Then, "No, I'm going home." Sakura then insisted, trying to see if anything would happen, because sometimes he did concede. The worst he could say, she thought, was no again. This time, it was different. The look Sasuke gave her was downright frosty. "How about you do something for me, Sakura? For once, how about you think about your training? You love bothering me day in and day out about a date here, a getaway together there. But I've never seen you truly apply yourself to be a ninja ever since we graduated from the academy. I wait dash. That's the thing, right? It's always a wait for you. We graduated from a ninja academy nearly a year ago. Everyone in our class seemed to have gotten stronger, I think. At least the ones who made it to the semifinals of the Chunin Exams. I've gotten stronger. Aburame-san got far in the tournament. Nara became a Chunin. Even the dead last, Naruto, did too. He looked particularly sour admitting that. I can't speak for that Yamanaka girl, Akimichi-san, Inuzuka, or Hyuga-san. But you're in the same space as before. Sakura remembered becoming hot, flushed with indignation. That's not true. I was good with the tree climbing exercise that Kakashi-sensei showed us. Better than both of you. And what about the water walking exercise? I read up about it. Sasuke just shook his head, deadpanning, "You never tried learning it, did you? Like, outside Kakashi-sensei's instruction?" Even if I didn't, I learned how to dispel genjutsu. Kakashi-sensei said I might have a great talent for them. Do you know any genjutsu though? She paused, before hanging her head. Her silence was her answer. Sasuke continued to cut into her. You may have learned how to dispel genjutsu, but I have as well. Naruto probably has too. Besides those two things, you haven't applied yourself. Not really. Outside team drills, you never asked for training or help with anything. Never sought out Kakashi-sensei for some extra instruction, or help with a technique you were working on. Never sought out knowledge and strength beyond Kakashi-sensei. Never opened up a scroll and practiced for hours until you could barely pick yourself up to go home. She tried defending herself deftly, her heart pounding. I know that. But I'm not like you, Sasuke-kun, or even Naruto. I can't run myself ragged like that. I don't believe that. It's not because you can't, it's because you don't want to try, you never tried. And that's my point. The boy then paused to let out a sigh. I say this because despite the headache you and Naruto give me, you two are my friends. My only friends in this village. She remembered feeling very touched by that, despite Sasuke's digging words. Sasuke hadn't done much in the past to make it seem like he cared about his teammates, about her, but this was the indication that she needed to know that he thought about her. That he held a place in his heart for her. However, the happiness didn't last because before she could say anything, Sasuke continued, but even if you're my friend, you're also my teammate. In case you haven't figured it out, our team is smaller thanks to Naruto becoming a Chunin. Kakashi-sensei and I have little use for a teammate who can't even pull her weight. I have no use for a girl who keeps pestering me about dates but can't bother to better herself. Why are you even a shinobi then if this is what you're going to do all day? Sakura recalled her eyes burning, her trying to force back the tears from coming out of her eyes and failing. Sasuke coldly finished with, "Don't ask me about any more dates, Sakura. I'm too busy trying to get stronger. Especially since I can't leave the village on missions now. If you don't want to get serious and be a genin level shinobi all your life, whatever, but leave me out of it." The Haruno teen was numb after that. She didn't follow Sasuke as he walked away to his home. She remembered standing out in the training grounds field for a minute, snibbling, before collapsing to her knees and letting out a shriek in the wind. By the time she picked herself up, she all but ran home to cry some more in her pillow. It hurt, all because it was true. She hadn't applied herself to learn much, just taking what she was forced to learn, or suggested to her. She knew she was intelligent and particularly good with her chakra control, but she never tried playing around with her strengths. Never applied herself, even after Nami no Kuni, where she was still in denial about how much of a gap was between her and the rest of her teammates. Her thoughts gave her a good reminder of what happened in the Forest of Death. She couldn't do anything to help against Orochimaru, even if she knew he was too strong to do anything against her. Naruto tried, Sasuke tried. She was scared shitless. Then, she recollected that she almost died to the Oto ninjas who were going after Sasuke. She needed interference from Rock Lee and Ino's team to help her. Both times, she could do almost nothing to help her teammates. She was weak. And that would have been okay. Sakura would have just chalked that up to being a slow starter or a late bloomer, but after her match with Ino, Sakura hadn't done much training. Kakashi-sensei had taken Sasuke for one-on-one training for an entire month outside the village. Naruto, well, she never sought out, truthfully. And since she was eliminated from the Chunin exams, she hadn't done anything. She felt like it didn't make any sense to train. No sort of training on the side, nothing at all. This continued even after the episode in the hospital between Naruto and Sasuke when Kakashi had promised to get her some help with some of her interests. She didn't follow up with the man, and now, he was on high-level missions, in and out of the village these days. She didn't even open up the medical ninjutsu training scrolls he gave her. What in the hell was she doing? Why the hell did she become a shinobi again? She knew deep in her heart it wasn't like Sasuke or Naruto's goals. Sasuke had the belief he could kill Itachi Uchiha, the slayer of his clan, and Sakura believed he could do it one day if he was given the chance. Naruto himself had loftier dreams of becoming the Hokage, something one time ago she would laugh at the idea of, but Naruto had been applying himself dearly and he was already a step closer to his goal. He was already receiving instruction from the Hokage, Sasuke had told her. Which was pretty crazy, Sakura said to herself when she learned that tidbit. Why did she become shinobi? Was it simply just because Ino wanted to become one? Was it because she wanted to do better than her father who only made genin and never went further than that? Was it a combination of both? Or was it simply because most of the kids in the village wanted to become a ninja? Did she even have a reason anymore? Did she want to quit? Because she was not like Naruto or Sasuke. She could never be like them. She just didn't have their drive and she knew it. But she didn't want to be useless, didn't want to stay useless. But what the hell could she do? She was just a nerd, and being good at math, books, and reading wasn't serving her much good when she and her team were on missions. Sakura sighed, holding back tears. Goddamn, was she starting to hate this? All this crying didn't help at all. She had to do something about this. Anything. Maybe she could start, as Sasuke suggested, her training separately. Maybe she could do something with those scrolls Kakashi-sensei gave her a while back. All they were doing anyway in her house was collecting dust. She had said to herself she would learn when Kakashi-sensei came back from his missions, and Team 7 met in their training grounds, but why didn't want to apply herself now? It was stupid, but it wasn't too late to try. Or at least do something now because she wasn't going to be sleeping now with all these thoughts running in her head. Mom! Sakura called from her bedroom. I'm going to head outside. This late in the night, dear? I'm going to train, I guess. Sakura responded, hating how lamely she put it. Anyway, going to go outside. There was a pause. Well, okay then. Just, be careful, sweetie. I'll let your father know when he comes in. Her mother was confused at Sakura's attitude. The younger Haruno knew why. Damn, even her mother was taken back by Sakura. She didn't do crap when she wasn't meeting with her team, huh? Sakura walked sedately to the training grounds, tired of her foolishness. She would start applying herself today, for sure. She's not going to let her team down anymore. That was her thoughts anyway. The training had been all forgotten when she got to the training grounds and saw her teammate Sasuke staring down 4 foreign ninjas, looking rigid and tense as if he expected a fight. They all wore the Otogakure symbol on their forehead protector. As she hid behind a tree, hoping to the gods there wasn't any sort of censor in that group, Sakura took in the shinobi's appearances. One was a big male shinobi who reminded her of a taller Choji, stocky with a stomach on him. Next was a slightly shorter guy with 4 arms and a ponytail resembling Shikamaru. Next to him was a redhead shinobi who looked like they could be either a guy or girl with that hat on their head and slender build. The final person stood in front of the group of shinobi like they were the leader and, like the redhead, could have been either male or female, but after they started to talk, she determined he was a male. Sasuke Uchiha, eh? The guy spoke with a relaxed drawl. My name is Sakan. My teammates here are Tayuya, Kadamaru, and Jirobo. We've been looking for you for a while. I already know why you're here, Sasuke responded flatly. Oh? Then Orochimaru-sama has already let you know what we can offer. Sakura knew who exactly these people were. They were Orochimaru's people, here to tempt Sasuke to go with them. She swallowed a lump in her throat, wondering what Sasuke was going to do now. Orochimaru is dead, Sasuke returned, not sounding all that impressed. Not for long. You see, Orochimaru-sama has a way to come back, but we need your help. You're the key to getting him back. How? The seal. It has the power to do so. Orochimaru-sama's genius and all. So, what? How do you plan on reviving him? Should I just put faith in random Otonin and hope you can get your master back? Ignoring your, quite honestly, insulting words, I can't say much. I'm sure you can't hear the fighting in the background, otherwise, you would shut up and just come with us, Sakan quipped dryly. Just follow us and we can help you get that strength you desire. You do want to kill Itachi Uchiha, don't you? Sasuke paused before nodding. I do want to kill him. I'll go with you. Sakura bit her lip, not liking what that meant. She couldn't do anything physically to stop Sasuke, but if she had to, she could alert the village. She didn't want to believe it, but even after that incident that involved the Hokage, Sasuke still was willing to chase after Orochimaru's power. Suddenly, she dashed the thought away when it became apparent that she didn't have to worry about Sasuke and his choices anymore as his hand went to attack the group's leader. Just follow us and we can help you get that strength you desire. You do want to kill Itachi Uchiha, don't you? Sasuke flinched, nearly bristling in anger. Did they know about him? Then again, he shouldn't be too surprised. If Orochimaru knew about Sasuke's desire to kill Itachi, of course, they did too. If he was still under the terrible influence of the cursed seal, he probably would have just decided to join them. The allure of power was too strong to resist. But now, his head was clear. There was no real promise of strength if Sasuke was to go with them. He looked down, in thought into what to do next. Suddenly, he nodded. I do want to kill him. I'll go with you. So, let's get to already, kid, Sakan groused. The sooner we leave, the better. Kadamaru, let Kimimaro know we got Sasuke. Jirobo, Tayuya, surround him. Will do, smirked Kadamaru. Sasuke noted the departure of the 6-armed shinobi who quickly sped off into a direction. They placed him in a triangle formation, covering 3 sides. Tayuya and Jirobo took a side while Sakan started to lead the front. Sasuke also noted the outfits they were wearing. Drab-colored tunics that didn't cover their necks at all. All it would take is one quick stab to the base of one of their necks and instant death would occur, ending at least one of their lives. Sasuke didn't hesitate one bit. A sleight of the hand and his kunai blade's tip came at Sakan's neck with such speed he couldn't possibly move. But he didn't have to when a hand suddenly erupted. Ridiculously enough, from the base of Sakan's neck. "Nice try there, weakling," Sakan mocked. "I guess we have to do this the hard way after all." Tayuya came at Sasuke as Sakan held onto his arm tightly. Lifting, Sasuke used his right foot to kick at the kunoichi, which she deflected with one arm. Landing back, the Uchiha brought a hand seal up, showing the half-tiger sign. She flinched, and in that moment of hesitance, Sasuke brought up his other foot and kicked her at the side of the head. She dropped to the ground at the side. Warning his enemies again with a hand seal, Sasuke got Sakan off of him, freeing his arm from the Oto ninja's iron grip. His teammate was already charging at the Uchiha next. The big teen, Jirobo, launched at him, obviously angered at Sasuke's trickery, but the move was anticipated. Sasuke was faster. The Uchiha teen went under, pivoted, and grabbed his right arm to throw him away with strength that surprised the larger teen. He went flying into a nearby tree. Sakan twisted and attempted a strike but missed as Sasuke ducked low. Pronating the grip of his blade, Sasuke drove his kunai forward horizontally to cut Sakan's belly. Two hands came out of the Oto ninja's stomach in a crossguard to protect Sakan from receiving a nasty cut from the kunai. The hands retreated into the stomach. Twice now was Sakan able to protect himself with extra limbs. "It's like he's got another person inside him," Sasuke thought, grimacing some more. This had to be the work of a Kekkei Genkai of some sort. Sasuke moved back before trying to receive any sort of attack from Sakan and his weird ability to grow body parts from any part of his body. Tayuya stirred, to which Sasuke took advantage of her by kicking at her head again. Sakan protected her by moving in quickly and kneeing Sasuke in the stomach with a strength that belied his relatively slight frame. With such force, Sasuke doubled over, slouching down. Sakan took it upon himself to punch Sasuke in the back of his head. Predictably, Sasuke ended up on the ground face first. The Uchiha lay there, unconscious for a while. Or acting like it, as he planned out his next move as he focused on his chakra. The girl barked at her ally, mad they could have killed Sasuke with the attack. Then, as he squinted his eyes to see as much as he could without alerting people that he was still conscious, he saw Sakura moving from behind a tree and towards them, without any more than a kunai. That idiot! Sakan, who was looking to pick up Sasuke, had to dodge Sakura's kunai throw. Sakura threw another array of projectiles, to which Sakan moved in between the attacks and went for her with blistering speed. There was no way she was going to dodge. It was time to act. Sasuke released lightning from his pores in a technique he had been working on, directing it forward. It was in its adolescence, but Sasuke had been experimenting with the secondary effects of lightning-release chakra. The purpose of the technique was to stun and paralyze anyone near the electrical field. Range had been a big issue, but Sakura and Sakan were fighting near him, so when Sasuke saw Sakan move close enough to him, he released the attack. Sakan had been hit, slumping forward with twitches. Sakura looked surprised and relieved at Sasuke's supposed second wind. Sasuke-kun. Move, damn it. He took her hand, seeing Jirobo about to sidewind her with a clothesline attack like some wrestler. Tayuya herself went for taijutsu against Sasuke once again, which was a big mistake for her. Sharingan activated, Sasuke could easily see through her moves and poke through some holes she left in the string of her attacks. Block her punch, deflect a swipe, and then counterattack. He slammed a knee into her liver, staggering her, before uppercutting her chin with a palm strike. He had thought that had been enough to put her down, but she had recovered, wiping her mouth and rubbing her jaw. She grabbed for something in her pocket, but Sasuke wasn't having it. This time, when he used a tiger hand seal, he released a fire release ninjutsu, the Gokaki no Jutsu to be exact, as a fireball raced at her. The fat shinobi, Jirobo, jumped in front of the ball and slammed his palms into the ground as pieces of the ground flipped up, like tatami, into a wall to protect them both from the fireball. Music started to play, like someone whistling from a flute. For a second, he felt his skin sloughing off him into a yellowish goo, before the disruption of his chakra beat out that feeling. He flared his chakra and disrupted the foreign chakra flow. It was just in time for him to catch Jirobo's fist. He twisted, grabbed him from under his arm, and chucked him away, right into the flute-playing Tayuya, who looked like she was ensnaring Sakura in a genjutsu. Much to Sakura's credit, the genjutsu was quickly dispelled, not needing the Uchiha teen's intervention at all. She recovered, grabbed the kunai, and went for the kill on Tayuya, but a returning Sakan threw a punch at Sasuke's pink-haired teammate so hard she flew into a nearby tree. Sasuke himself did not anticipate the spider web descending onto him. The fourth member of this squad, Kidamaru, had returned to help his teammates. The web gave into a full-fledged cocoon. Figured he was going to pull something, the four-armed teen claimed with a smirk. It would have been too easy otherwise. Sasuke watched as Sakan kept landing blows on the defenseless Sakura's face. He gave up any chance of them winning now. Wait. Leave her alone. I'll go with you bastards, just stop. Sakan let up, raising his hands into the air in a mocking surrender. Sakura's face was bruised and she was bleeding heavily. Any sort of more damage could have done some real lasting damage, assuming Sakura hadn't already gotten that with the way Sakan was beating on her a second ago. Kidamaru groaned Tayuya as she walked up to them. Put that fucking little trash to sleep. We still need him alive, reminded Jirobo, but he too had a scowl on his face. He had placed his hand on Sasuke's exposed head, smirking. Tasty amount of chakra you got here, trash. Sasuke felt his chakra drying up quickly. You calling him trash and yet the kid nearly waxed all three of you? Fuck you, you six-legged freak. He just got lucky. Language and volume, Tayuya, chastised Jirobo. Tayuya barked out something else caustic that Sasuke couldn't hear. He had already fainted from the combination of being strangled by threads of the web at his neck and the massive draining of his chakra reserves. They escaped Kanahagakure through tunneling, Jirobo was doing with his usage of the Doton Mogiragakure no Jutsu. Chaos sounded off in the background as they hit the road and disappeared into the forest. Orochimaru congratulated them from behind the wall of the seals, purring practically in contentment. To him, it would be only a few more hours until he was resurrected and able to take Sasuke Uchiha's body for his own. As they ran with the Uchiha in tow, Tayuya wondered how things could have been different. She wasn't a mawkish, woe-is-me type of person, far from it anyway. She did not cry about the pain of not knowing her father or her mother. Her life was her life, and despite the shittiness of it all, she tried to roll with the punches. From an earlier age, she had decided long ago that the world was a crapsack place and that only the strong survived, so she did everything she could to become strong. And it paid off. Being one of Orochimaru's strongest shinobi had given Tayuya luxuries that other peons that licked at Orochimaru's boots couldn't possibly dream of. She hardly had to worry about being some experimental freak in one of the Snake Sage's hideouts dotted across the continent, nor did she have to be some cannon fodder used to test out the limits of a person of interest to him. Instead, she was Hokuma no Tayuya, and she was one of the strongest shinobi of Orogakure. But sometimes, like now, the Oto Kunoichi wondered what that meant. Tayuya had no real love for her village or nation. Orogakure was not a home for her. She could go on about everything she hated about Orochimaru and his Orogakure. She didn't quite hate that she was strong, she enjoyed it because it, again, gave her luxuries. She hated the person that gave her the strength. She hated that no one in the village liked each other, out to get each other. She hated the way she had to claw her way to the top to become strong. The hell that Orochimaru put her through was something not many could endure. Every scrap, bruise, wound, broken bone, or any other grievous injury she may have received had been because of him. He treated them like they were replaceable at any second. If they failed, they would be more ready to rise and take their place. Unlike the others who were Orochimaru's loyalists, she felt she hated him uniquely. So, when she learned that Orochimaru had kicked the bucket that fateful day in Kanahagakure, where the Sound 4 was locked in battle with the ANBU, Tayuya was ecstatic. Of course, her relation with her boss Death was shelved temporarily as the fallout of Operation Konoha Crush happened quickly after, and she and her compatriots had to run for their lives from ANBU. They were able to slaughter quite a few of their forces by tapping into their cursed seals, but they still almost faced capture. When they got back, they quickly found that, besides Kimimaro and Guren, they were the strongest that Otogekyure now had to offer. Kabuto Yukushi, the former right-hand man of Orochimaru and Slimeball extraordinaire, was not with them. Without Orochimaru, Kabuto would have been the man in charge, but he was not present, and he should have been. Clamors of betrayal and treachery were around the people of Otogekyure. Those who were led by Kabuto outside of Konoha and Hi-no-Kuni claimed he ran off in the dead of night while they were resting, undetected by those who were watching for Konoha's forces. That, of course, roused everyone. Otogekyure had two sorts of people to them, those who truly followed Orochimaru because they believed in him and those who only were obedient to the snake summoner because he put the fear of the gods in their hearts. When they learned Orochimaru was dead, it didn't take long for infighting to happen, and soon, there was a civil war on the lands of Oto no Kuni. Hell broke out, and the ragtag village consisting of outposts and underground bases quickly erupted as ninjas fought each other for survival. This was expected, and Tayuya wanted to make the best out of the situation by getting the fuck out of the village. While she would simply run from Otogekyure like Kabuto had done, she knew it was impossible. For one, Orochimaru was truly not dead. Oh, how could he be when he barked in their ears angrily at his failure? He bemoaned his fate, angry that the Sandaime Hokage had won, and wanted swift revenge to be dealt to Konoha. The cursed seals made sure Orochimaru would at least have 8 more lives left to use. All of the Sound 4, Kimimaro, and those two in Konoha, especially Sasuke Uchiha, were to thank for that. And she, Orochimaru's slave, could not escape. Not when she wore his brand for the world to see. Besides knowing Orochimaru knew where she was at all times, viewing the world through the seal, Tayuya knew that Orochimaru also had very strong loyalists. The freak twins, Sakan and Yukon, were loyal. Jirobo's fat ass was loyal. Kadamaru, the 6-armed freak, was loyal. If she ran, Tayuya would quickly be sniffed out by her teammates and killed. And even if she did evade the Sound 4, she knew it wouldn't be for long, because Kimimaro was loyal. The civil war quickly ended after a week. Kimimaro was bedridden for most of the talks and conflict of the war in their village, but during the last few days of the conflict, he miraculously gained enough strength to make sure the war ended quickly. Call it renewed strength, an unholy rage, or simply from Orochimaru whispering and encouraging him, Kimimaro recovered enough to put an end to the war and killed anyone who threw their allegiance to Orochimaru away. Even sick and ailing, Kimimaro was truly the strongest of Orochimaru's chosen. So, she tossed any sort of idea she had about running from Otogekyure. She instead dipped her toe into the water and found herself, along with the rest of the Sound 4, being led by Kimimaro through the forests of Hi-no-Kuni. With Kimimaro now back in the group, they were what they were originally, the Sound 5. Kimimaro was no real tactician, but with Kadamaru, who was the group's brains, the Shikatsumiyaku user had come up with a plan to get Sasuke Uchiha from his village. That involved getting any freak branded with Orochimaru's Juinjutsu and foisting them at the village. Kimimaro decided he would go against the Hokage to stall for more time and keep the heat off of them. The tall weirdo that joined them, Yugo, whom Kimimaro had picked up from the northern hideout, and who kept muttering to himself, was a part of the plan. They would go for the Hokage directly. And regardless of how that would work out, the rest of the Sound 5 had retrieved their target. It was indeed messy. Admittedly, they underestimated the Uchiha, but they had succeeded. So, she braced herself and decided it was better to be a live slave to Orochimaru than a dead one. Before this mess, the Hokage was just settling down in the Hokage residence. It was close to 11 o'clock. He had finally made it to his bed, ready for some well-deserved rest. He was halfway dressed into some sleepwear when he heard the explosion. Jiraiya ran to the window, observing the plume of smoke arising from the front gate of the village. Stripping himself of his sleepwear, he threw on some battle attire, just foregoing whatever took time to put on, like his gauntlets or his horned oil forehead protector. Without the forehead protector, he let his white spiky hair blow wildly in the evening night. He stepped outside onto the top of his abode. The Hokage watched what was happening from the Hokage residence, as it towered over most buildings and had a good view of the main street of Konoha that the main gate led into. Most of the citizens were inside. Jiraiya instilled a curfew for most that started around 9 p.m. 2 weeks ago because of worries about this. Only a few that were on the street were supposed to be issued inside by Chunin. He flickered himself across the village until he got a better look at the front gate on a nearby rooftop. Ebisu had already raced onto the scene as Oto Ninja poured into the village. Brown earthen walls raised into the air, boxing in those who didn't make it far into Konohagakure. Ebisu poured into the box to deal with them. The stragglers who did, and weren't trapped in the earth release ninjutsu were engaged by Ebisu who were on the ground, and adjoining amount of Chunin and Jonin. So far, so good, until out of the smoking plume, he felt the chakra of some newcomers. One of the side effects of being used to Orochimaru's Juinjutsu and its wielders was that they had all Orochimaru's Senjutsu chakra placed into their seals. Jiraiya was no censor outside using his, admittedly, half-baked transformation of Sage Mode, but as a byproduct of being adept with Senjutsu, he was used to sensing chakra of that nature. He knew what Konohagakure was facing. Cursed seal users, Jiraiya uttered, now jumping closer to the action. He had seen some of them transform. State 1 of Orochimaru's Juinjutsu had the user's seal spread across their bodies. The second state had the wielders of the cursed seal transform their bodies into monstrous creations, befitting the sick mind of Orochimaru. Their bodies were covered in adulterated, perverted sage chakra. Luckily, these people were merely prisoners, experiments of Orochimaru. He could tell by the way they were dressed, in beat-up white shirts and shorts. None of them had the finesse of a well-trained shinobi and did not display techniques. Simply madmen yelling and cackling madly as they raced to their doom. Fast indeed, yes, but can be simply thrown away. He closed into where they were coming, on the main street, and enacted his next move. Jiraiya contorted his fingers into hand seals in a rapid blur, sucking in the air. He gathered the necessary chakra in his stomach, transformed it, and exhaled the wind in the form of the futon, de tapa. The technique was simple, a release of wind to blow away targets. However, its strength varied and relied on its user's chakra. Jiraiya placed more than a modest amount of chakra in the technique, as it sent out a massive, almost hurricane-level gale of wind. The gigantic main gate and whatever trees were in the path of the destructive wind were collateral, but it dealt with many of the shinobi who were running straight inside the village. He sacrificed more of the landscape as he added fire into the wind, and the gale-force wind became a howling firestorm that burned and melted anything, human, plant, or any poor animal, caught in the follow-up ninjutsu. Fires burned, lighting a path in the darkness. Censors, he barked out to nearby ninjas as he landed on the street. Any stragglers? A pause. Very little left, Hokage-sama. Then, one of the Ebisu yelled as spikes made of white bone impaled through his metal armor. Jutting through his chest and neck, his death was brutal and instant. Bullets made of the same bone followed next, taking out any unfortunate ninjas nearby. A white-haired youth looked at them with a cold stare. Above them, loud cackling began. The Hokage dodged a stomp from an airborne combatant. To his shock, Jiraiya sensed full-on, unadulterated senjutsu with a demented-looking ninja that was fully transformed and blades protruding from his arms. He, along with his partner, hacked down any poor Ebisu not fast enough to get away. He knew who one of them was, judging from Sasuke's description of the white-haired youth. It was one of Orochimaru's so-called boogeymen. He raced to Jiraiya with black symbols painting his face and upper body. The Hokage was ready for him, but Tsunade decided to step in as she sent a fist into the ground, causing a rupture to the ground. The Kaguya jumped back and looked at the two with deadened eyes, unafraid he was facing two Kage-level shinobi. The red-haired smiled evilly at the two, also not worried in the slightest. Most people would be a bit perturbed or cautious. And like the universe gave him an answer to his inquiring thoughts, an aching pain started in his hand. Jiraiya knew what was up. The seal glowed bright and angry on his hand. If these two were here, then that meant all this chaos the Oto ninja ensued was merely a distraction, he believed. It was an indication of one thing, that Sasuke Uchiha had left the village. They got him. I'll handle these two, Tsunade, go after the ones who took Sasuke, Jiraiya commanded to his counselor. Tsunade nodded wordlessly. He gave her a paper seal. You can track him with this. If you can, get anyone available on your way out. Hurry! Protrusions from the tall gray-skinned redhead started to glow blue, an indication of chakra. Jiraiya had slammed an open palm fist into his face, which made the half-demonic ninja roll back in a tumble. The Kaguya sent an array of bone spears to the Senju, but Tsunade had already disappeared into the night. Jiraiya was already in the white-haired teen's face, who now sported the working of Orochimaru's cursed seal. A kick punted the teen to the roof of a building before he could defend himself. By the time the Hokage allowed his leg back down, the maddened redhead ran back at him swinging a blade created out of his arm. Jiraiya weaved through the flurry of attacks, noting the shinobi was not very skilled. He was sure that this young man was more of a berserker than a real ninja. A quickened tone of ninjutsu summoned wind out of Jiraiya's palm to blow away the enemy. He followed with a tiger hand seal to shoot a fireball shaped like a dragon's head out of his mouth. Uncaring if the berserker ninja was hurt by it, the Godame pursued the more dangerous of the two by launching himself to the roof. As he jumped to the top, he dipped to the left to avoid bone-white, bullet-shaped projectiles before taking to the skies again. The Godame Hokage heard the maddened cackling from before, performed a half-ram hand seal to create a clone of himself, and directed his creation to deal with the other shinobi. The berserker shinobi and the Kaguya both shared the same thought, engaging the Hokage and his clone in taijutsu. The Kaguya showed swordsmanship with a blade made of bone, swinging deftly at Jiraiya with finesse and controlled, surgical strikes. The madman shinobi shifted his arm to create an axe-like appendage and started swinging at the Hokage's clone, not caring one bit about technique. Jiraiya had flung several shuriken stars at his opponent, watching as the Kaguya deflected them away with his bone sword. His clone smacked his enemy with 2 blows to his face. Both of them jumped mid-air, their backs facing each other. The clone turned to face the berserker and breathed in deeply. Jiraiya mimicked the idea, facing the Kaguya. Hand seals flashed from the tiger, then the bird, then the dragon, the tiger again, and finally, the horse seal. Katan Gasaku, they started to call out, Yudachi Yakaru. A rainstorm of searing flame pelted the rooftop with super-hot fireballs, fire dug into the tiles underneath viciously. If their enemies were hit, their skin would easily melt. Boosters were created on the back of the tall teen to escape the fireballs, while the Kaguya similarly dodged with his enhanced speed. The clone of the Hokage pursued the redhead, while the original creator focused on the Kaguya. An influx of chakra the Hokage could sense, senjutsu again, this time from the Kaguya, which signified usage of the cursed seal. The Kaguya's skin darkened to a dark gray, the scara of his eyes blackened, and his eyes became piss yellow, glowing in the night ominously. He even grew a tail, looking somewhere between the mixture of a human and a dinosaur. Bones sprouted from the Kaguya's back. Somewhere, the Kaguya decided to ditch the sword for a new weapon. He leaned forward, crouching low, as he produced his spine lengthened and manipulated to become a macabre-looking whip. Yet, the Hokage was not unnerved, as he deflected the whip as it swung at him with a quickly formed Rasengan, which had the whip spin back and out of his opponent's hand and away from them. The Kaguya gritted his teeth, seeing Jiraiya enter his guard before more bones sprouted from his body to prevent the Kage-level shinobi from doing more damage. The Kaguya backed up, trying for his whip again, dodging as Jiraiya one-handedly sent spheres of fire his way. He swung his whip at the Hokage again in a dance. Jiraiya was still too fast for it as he jumped over the whip and detonated the Rasengan on it. It shattered down the middle, as the bone whip broke into 2 halves and fell to the floor. Jiraiya moved in the Kaguya, dodging spikes growing out of the ground. The technique held the Kaguya in place in concentration, which made Jiraiya's next move all the easier to pull off. He stomped on the ground as a bog from the Doton, Yomi Numa prevented his enemy from escaping. The Hokage was not surprised when his opponent flashed away, using the Kawarimi no Jutsu to substitute himself with a piece of the bone whip from earlier, now digging into the bog and the rooftop. The Kaguya was already closing in on the Hokage, but Jiraiya was still fast enough to miss the newly created bone drill on his arm. He planted a foot into the side of Orochimaru's shinobi with speed that the Kaguya couldn't possibly counter and stabbed his foot with his bones. It sent the Kaguya back, but it still didn't deter him from approaching again. Ninjas from the Kagaya clan who had mastery of the Shikatsumiyaku were hard to kill with normal conventional means, which was why Kirigakure deployed them in the Third Shinobi World War, and why they lasted long enough in the World War. But they were not impossible to kill, especially not for a shinobi of the Hokage's caliber. Besides the usage of his Kekai Gekai, and some other basic ninjutsu, the Kagaya Jiraiya was fighting didn't display anything too advanced like elemental ninjutsu, and he doubted genjutsu as well. A powerful shinobi was his opponent, but he still did not have what a Kage or even most Jonin-level shinobi should have, which was well-roundedness and mastery in all three schools of ninja techniques. This is why he created an earth-natured clone, who started to charge at the white-haired shinobi. At the last moment, bones jutted out of the Kagaya's frame as Jiraiya skewered himself. Quickly, the Kagaya found himself ensnarled again in ninjutsu as the clone exploded into mud and caked the entire body of his opponent with earth. Further application of Earth Chakra created the Doton, Yomi Numa's Bog again to make sure the Kagaya couldn't do anything. The technique could ensnare even large summons, so Orochimaru's ninja wasn't going to do anything. Jiraiya opened his mouth and blasted the Kagaya with brown oil. The Shikatsumiyaku truly makes it hard for someone to outright use taijutsu and bladed techniques against you. You can heal through nearly any sort of conventional damage. Even further, Orochimaru's seal made your skin downright hard to penetrate. But it doesn't exactly make you fireproof, right? After that, Jiraiya finished a set of hand seals for a fire release ninjutsu, puffed his chest, leaned back, and shot a ray of flame at the young teen. To his credit, the Kagaya did not yell or shriek in pain as his skin was stripped away. He concentrated. For many cycles, he would heal back the flesh and bones until his chakra finally fizzled out, a testament to how dense his chakra pools were. The fire aided him finally, and the last bit of regeneration he had was finally stopped. The Kagaya's skin was dust in the wind, bones became nothing but ashes. But he did not scream. All he did was stare at Jiraiya as if he was trying to curse the Toad Sage before he perished. Yellow eyes became green until the eyes melted into nothing with everything else of the Kagaya. Spooky shit. He kept the fire up for a few more seconds to make sure the Kagaya was dead, truly believing for a second, somehow, this young man could come back. Jiraiya stopped feeding the conflagration with his chakra, steely looking at his handiwork for a moment. He had been completely sure that that was the last of the Kagaya clan he had slayed. And it had been a shame. Such a powerful shinobi could have been nurtured differently had he not fallen into the hands of Orochimaru. The Hokage turned, and on cue, his clone had returned. He brought with him the red-headed teen, carrying him over his shoulder. Notably, the Berserker shinobi looked more human as any sort of transformation from before had receded. There's something different about this big guy than the other curse seal users like that Kagaya, the clone commented, dropping the dead body of the Kagaya's former partner. What do you mean? Well, we can sense that they were using Senjutsu chakra, right? Even without our Sage mode, we can feel that power a bit, and it's definitely Senjutsu. All users of that cursed seal Orochimaru cooked up were using that power. This guy right on my shoulder was brimming with it as well. So? He too was a cursed seal user, right? The clone shook his head. I didn't see any sort of seal work adorned anywhere on his body before I killed him. Yet he could use Senjutsu chakra. Yes, he transformed like them, but he lacked Orochimaru's mark. Jiraiya began, stroking his chin. Might be some sort of Kekai Genkai. I should have Tsunade analyze the body or take him back to the toads at Mount Mayaboko so they can give some insight too. If he could transform into a state that could use Senjutsu chakra without some outside help, then maybe they know about it. That, and I'll have to do some research on it in the outside world because I have never fought a shinobi that can transform into that state. That I know the reason why you haven't destroyed the boy's body, Jiraiya finished, unable to keep an excited smile off his face. Yeah. The clone copied the grin. If we can figure out how this boy and the cursed seals are related, then perhaps with some tinkering, we can get rid of Ol Orochi's seal once and for all. Leaving the village was smooth, but leaving the country had not been so. The 4 members of the Sound Four hadn't even made it more than an hour away from Konoha before they were stopped. A squad of 4 Jonin-level Konoha shinobi followed them, 3 men and 1 woman, and things got even dicier. If it wasn't for the usage of Stage 2 of their cursed seals, the Sound 4 would have been overwhelmed and killed. The battle ended with their victory. However, they couldn't kill the Jonin as the woman, Ahmedneen, took her teammates and retreated. The 4 of them did not pursue their enemies. They instead raced forward, too busy licking their wounds and trying to recuperate their strength and their chakra. All of the team had dense chakra pools, as their deceased master had once stated to them, but that last battle had been long drawn out. Usage of their highest form of Orochimaru's Juinjutsu had left them exhausted after the power trip was over. She didn't know about the rest of her teammates, but she had burned quite a bit of her chakra, and Orochimaru-sama had once remarked to her in private that she had the most chakra of the group, eclipsing the physically stronger Jirobo or the Sakan/Yukon twins. The Uchiha fucker was taken out of Kadamaru's spider cocoon technique, the Kyumo-mayu. They surrounded Sasuke's body in 4 angles, and all combined their chakra for a combination of a ninjutsu/fuinjutsu, the Shikokomajin. A purplish-black, foul fog engulfed the unconscious teen, and he was transferred into the coffin that Sakan had unsealed from a scroll. Kimimaro-san and his friend are still out there in that village, Jirobo remarked first. I hope they can catch up with us. Who cares? Sakan responded callously. You know they're just expendable. Kimimaro knew that too. We don't need them. Once we get far enough, past the Valley of the End, we'll unseal the Uchiha scum, release Orochimaru-sama from the cursed seal of heaven, and go from there. You can sound a little less salty. You got your shit rocked, Sakan. Twice in one day, no less. Damn. Couldn't be me. The spider-like teased, to which the team's leader scowled at him. Oi, shut the hell up, Kadamaru. Tayuya wasn't in the mood to bicker or talk. She just wanted it to be over with, already not liking the idea that Orochimaru would be back to life in just a few more hours, but knowing she had no choice. Kadamaru's snickering stopped, and his face tightened. Wait, something's up. Someone just passed through my threads. Something wrong? Sakan questioned, straightening up. Someone's coming for us. The spider-like teen did not have his characteristic smirk, Tayuya noted. He looked perturbed. This person is strong. She started to feel it, the foreign chakra. It was like an ocean wave that washed over her. She did not have something like a ninjutsu that gave her strong sensory abilities like Kadamaru, but she was still sensitive enough to foreign chakra, and this person felt like being around Orochimaru. He must have gotten past the barrier tags we put on those trees back there, Jirobo added, with a frown. But without setting them off. How strong, Kadamaru? Konoha sent us more trash like those shinobi at us? Sakan queried, not happy either. Is it like Kimimaro's chakra? No, not Kimimaro. Stronger? So much more. He has so much chakra, like Orochimaru-sama. Then who the fuck was it? Kakashi Hatake? Because she believed they could take him. Tsunade was way different of a problem, or, hell, did the fucking Hokage come to get them? Sakan, irritated, started to bark. Kadamaru, snap the hell out of it, already. Let's just dash. Yeah, y'all probably should have just run instead of arguing. You're so loud, anyone could hear you out here. Sat on a tree was a red-haired man, with his head held up by a hand. An easygoing smile was on his face. Ah, teens these days. Jirobo dropped Sasuke's coffin, preparing with Sakan for close-quarters combat, while she made for the trees with her flute now in her hands. Kadamaru had spat out his golden web to form makeshift weapons himself. You. State your name, trash, called out Sakan. Instead of doing so, a violent wave of water erupted from his mouth. Jirobo instinctively jumped in front of the group as the usual meat shield of theirs when attacks like that one broke out. He held his hand up, his large body saturated with earth chakra. Tayuya watched as the weakest member of the team easily absorbed the chakra of the water. All that was left of the technique was the concussive force, which was further dampened by Jirobo's chakra flow technique. All in all, Jirobo was left unscathed. Not bad. A nice combination of earth release and chakra absorption, huh? Then, unannounced, golden chains erupted from the ground. Sakan and Kadamaru had already moved away, all very agile enough. Jirobo was slower, however, and the chains wrapped around him. With a flick of his hand, the red-haired enemy chucked her teammate away from a distance, throwing him further into the forest. Then, the redhead lazily landed on the ground, stalking slowly toward her direction. Sakan rushed down their enemy with his usual taijutsu tactics aided by his twin, Yukon, who resided inside him. The light blue-haired threw a series of punches and they connected, but it was all for naught as the man's now revealed water-natured clone exploded into a large concentrated burst of water. It was all too similar to the thing that caught him off guard, like what Sasuke Uchiha did. Like Jirobo, Sakan was sent flying, but not as far. She watched as he flew into a tree. He didn't seem to go unconscious this time, to his credit though. Unfortunately for him, with one specific hand seal that Tayuya recognized, a shadow clone was foisted his way, and Sakan had very little time to recover. Kadamaru, who was up in the trees as the chaos unfolded, had all the time in the world to set up. Headband ripped off and thrown away haphazardly, the spider teen revealed a hidden third eye. Golden web stuck to his skin in armor. He then spat out more of his golden web and started creating his bow and arrow. He sent out a volley of arrows, but another clone of the man easily moved and weaved through the shots. He was rushing towards the spider teen, who did everything to get away. This usage of clones to split up the team unnerved the red-headed girl. The man seemed confident enough to split up his attention amongst the team. The enemy walked toward Tayuya with a slow, relaxed gait. Okay, fuckhead, I don't give a shit how strong you are if you're going to make this easy. You can't beat this one. She sneered at the man's arrogance. She had her demonic flute out, whistling out a tune as the cursed seal state 1 raced across her face. The man did stop, but only for him to smile at her. Genjutsu, And sound-based? Such talent for someone as young as you. A pity that genjutsu of that caliber does not affect me. Tayuya jumped away onto a gigantic tree's branch, perturbed again at the failure of her technique. The Matiki Muganansa, empowered by Orochimaru's Juinjutsu, was her fastest illusionary technique because once you heard it, it would take effect. It should have stopped the man, at least. For a bit. Instead, he walked up to her tree, and looked up at her from the ground, unbothered, with that smile that continued to disturb her. Show me what else you got, young one. She placed her flute in her mouth and slammed her palm to the tree's branch. A black arrangement of symbols stretched onto the bark, and from a plume of smoke, 3 ogres, the Doki, were summoned in back of her, towering over her. She grabbed the metal flute and played a melody that caused the monstrous creatures to move and go at the man. As she did that, she moved away, having a feeling they were only serving as a distraction. She was proven correct, unfortunately, as she saw 3 eruptions of smoke and chains swinging back to their creator. One of her Doki's severed heads was launched in her direction with a stone skewer sticking out of its forehead. She panicked inwardly. Fuck, he dispatched them so quickly. How the fucking fuck? Fuck. She was running out of ideas. Unlike her teammates, she didn't excel in purely offensive moves. Yes, her taijutsu was solid, but it was never her strength. Yes, she knew ninjutsu and fuinjutsu, but they were either supplementary, combination techniques, or they were purely defensive. Orochimaru hadn't even bothered teaching her elemental techniques, as she didn't excel in shaping her chakra like that. Is that all? The man questioned with a mocking drawl. Orochimaru didn't teach you anything to help combat your weakness to close range other than summons? Were your teammates supposed to cover for you forever? She heard him from behind, and she twisted her body to throw a punch in his direction. Tayuya didn't have enough time to react, as golden chains grabbed her wrists, then her ankles dropped her and pulled her to her knees. She yelped as she helplessly lay on the ground on her stomach and the chains snaked all around her differently, hog-tying her. She tried flaring her chakra to somehow break the chains, but it was all for naught. She felt her chakra dissipate and the flow inside her body ceased. She tried to summon the other chakra from her seal, but it did not come out. Orochimaru screamed petulantly that it was the work of a seal before his voice receded into the cursed seal, as did his presence. Don't struggle. Not like you could move anyway. Tayuya spat out with a venomous, "Fuck you." Charming words. Relax, I'm not going to hurt you. Whatever you're going to do it now, and get it over with. I'm not going to hurt you, he reiterated. Why would I hurt someone of my clan? Huh? What the hell was he saying now? Wait, what? Yes, you are of the Uzumaki, young girl. I can feel it. Dense chakra pools that easily eclipse your teammates, that strange chakra only our clan has. What the fuck is an Uzumaki? The so-called Uzumaki shook his head, sighing deeply. Oh, Orochimaru, you piece of garbage. You never let this poor girl know who she was. I'm sure even he didn't know who he had on his side. If he did, he would have trained you, my dear, more properly. You could have been a great kunoichi if he knew you were an Uzumaki. Instead, all I see is a one-trick pony who can only work alongside others. Those three children were also pretty one-dimensional too. Well, maybe not the Spider Boy, since he could summon, create weapons, sense chakra, and had your master's Juinjutsu. Shame I couldn't test him too much. He had very interesting chakra too. I think I fought someone from his clan a long time ago in the Third War. As he rambled on, she listened to the way the enemy was talking about her teammates. It was past tense. They were dead, weren't they? A roar from behind them said one of them wasn't, as Jirobo, now in his orange, monstrous-looking Stage 2 form, ran at them with the intent of tearing the Uzumaki limb from limb. Even with the added speed, her teammate could not touch him. Oh, still alive after I threw you at least a mile away? You've got some durability, I'll give you that. Jirobo growled, shut the hell up, trash. You caught me by surprise, but this time, you won't get the chance to do so. The man looked unimpressed. Okay then. Let me see if this new sage transformation makes you any better than before. Another roar from her large teammate as he ran and engaged the man in taijutsu. The Uzumaki weaved through the sequence of attacks, pivoting on his feet deftly. When Jirobo got in his face again trying to grab him, the Uzumaki moved to give the big teen a shove. The man dared to yawn. Too slow, he mocked. Jirobo snarled in return and ran back at the Uzumaki, but his anger got the best of him. He overextended with a missed shoulder tackle, and the Uzumaki ruthlessly kicked at Jirobo's head. The teen slid back, catching himself on a tree as he got up. The enemy shinobi was already upon him, flashing forward at a speed she barely could keep track of. He pulled Jirobo rightly up and slammed a series of punches into his face. A spinning heel kick lashed out at Jirobo, launching the teen off his feet. It threw him back, damn near taking his head off his shoulders. Her teammate landed. Jirobo recovered, wiping his bleeding chin and hawked out spit, mucus, and blood together. Come now, boy, can you try something else? You old bastard. Jirobo roared. He slammed his hands into the ground, heaving up a huge piece of the earth. A mass of dirt converted into a large, hardened boulder. The man still looked unimpressed, as the shadow of the earth release ninjutsu overtook him. Golden chains were summoned and laid on the ground. All that went under Jirobo's notice. Eat shit and die. Jirobo threw his technique out at the Uzumaki with impressive speeds, but it was all for naught. The chains that ensnarled her before and threw Jirobo around, coiled around the boulder. The Uzumaki, with ease, redirected back Jirobo's Doton, Dorio Dango. Tayuya only got a glimpse of Jirobo starting to run as the ninjutsu made contact with the ground. The boulder exploded into thousands of pieces. She was out of the range of the shrapnel, thankfully. Somewhere in between the rock bombing into the earth, a clone of the Uzumaki grabbed her and moved her further away. Anything in the blast radius of the stone meeting the earth would have been pelted and crushed by rock and dirt. She wasn't sure if her teammate got away. Tayuya's worries were quelled as movement from the earth began. Ground and rock were used again as Jirobo's summon walked the earth. A golem, Jirobo Gorimu, hustled towards the Uzumaki with a sprint, well, anything considered fast for a creature of such size. More rocks? And still so slow too. His mocking soon ceased when a dome of rock covered him, a sign of Jirobo Doton Kekai, Daro Domu. Got you now, bastard. No escaping when me and my golem make sure you don't have enough energy left. Jirobo slammed his hands onto his earthen construction, as did his golem from the other side of the earthen prison. The summon had the same ability to drain chakra from opponents as Jirobo did. In Tayuya's opinion, the combination of his techniques was perfectly executed by Jirobo. At first, she was worried that somehow the man would escape the prison easily. The prison was durable and often made people panic inside it since it had no light inside of it, and then the chakra absorption began, draining your chakra away quickly. The only downside was on the other side of the dome. If one was aware of it, the dome could be broken through. With the dome being covered by two beings that could absorb chakra, any sort of ordinary shinobi could never break out. But Tayuya knew one thing. This technique never worked on Kimimaro, Guren, and certainly not on Orochimaru. Why? Because they were not ordinary shinobi. A pit opened underneath the golem, causing it to fall in partially with its head sticking up. It was wiggling, trying to free himself, but then, a pillar of red fire rose into the night sky. The flame pillar would incinerate any normal target, but Tayuya thought the golem could take it. Turns out she was wrong. As the pillar finished, there was nothing left of the golem except melting, molten rock that spilled over the pit and raced out back into some trees, that quickly caught on fire. The rest of it moved forward, sneaking around the dome. Jirobo had moved already, not desiring to be incinerated like his golem creation. The raging fire and molten rock were quelled when it was directed into pits that swallowed it into the depths of the earth. Cooling water raced out of the dome the Uzumaki was trapped in from all directions, and the earthen prison exploded. Tayuya was placed in a strategic location by the clone of the Uzumaki shinobi, further cementing that the man wanted to keep her from harm. The Uzumaki himself stepped out of the remains of the dome, looking not very winded from all of what he was put through. Well, at least that was pretty interesting. Good attempt, but you probably need about a half hour or so to absorb all of my chakra. We both don't have that amount of time, child. This was fucking ridiculous. 3 elemental affinities, the ability to produce clones, that chain ninjutsu/fuinjutsu or whatever, the ability to seal away chakra, enough chakra to keep throwing out such techniques, and speed and strength that easily could handle anyone of their caliber. And it felt like they were just on the iceberg of what this Uzumaki fuckhead could do. Tayuya had no such belief that Jirobo could do anything against this man if all of his techniques weren't doing anything. Jirobo raced through a couple of hand seals, slammed a palm into the earth, and tore the ground apart as stone and dirt broke and shifted. Trees were uprooted in the chaos caused by the last of the sound four. The Uzumaki jumped in the air and spat out a large amount of water, shaped like a dragon. It sped fast at him. Jirobo slammed his hands to the ground as an earthen-style wall rose. He stood, had his hands out, and saturated himself further with earth-nature chakra. That was his last action alive as the water dragon slammed right through the wall and gored into him, launching the poor bastard off his feet completely as it threw him back into a tree. The technique had gotten through the wall and overloaded his chakra absorption, and the orange-haired boy's stage 2 transformation receded. Tayuya was grabbed again, and they appeared down where Jirobo ended up. She was unconcerned about being dropped so roughly. She instead looked at her teammate and shuddered. Inspecting a sizable hole where a part of his chest used to be, all she could stare at it and her. He stared back at her with lifeless eyes. Then Sakan was dropped in front of her, similarly as dead as Jirobo. He, and his twin brother. Next, Kadamaru was no different from the rest of the Sound Four. She could feel her eyes burning. Oh gods, she was about to die as well. Like I said, just disappointing. Every one of you was disappointing. Young children who couldn't fill the shoes your master put you in. Please, spare me. I told you before, you are my kin. We Uzumaki do not kill each other. Even if you are quite the rude girl. I am disappointed in your skills, but I can't blame you all too much. You simply never knew of your heritage. What the fuck do you want with me then? She paused. Then she looked even more desperate. She was helplessly in binds, and no one was here to defend her. She was a woman, and this guy kept saying that they were family. No, no, just kill me. The man sighed exasperatedly as he picked her up. She screamed, unable to free herself from his chains. Put me the fuck down and just kill me already. I'd rather die than be your sex dash. She was thrown to the ground roughly. He grabbed the back of her head, raised her neck, and pressed a dagger on her throat. See this? I could easily do what I want to you if I was that disgusting. But you're not only still alive, but you have your dignity. We Uzumaki don't kill family, but we aren't above beating the hell of them. I don't quite care for your accusations. I'm a seal master and a good medic. Unless you want to lose your speaking privileges, I suggest being quiet. Cowed again, Tayuya held her tongue and just accepted her fate. Logic said there was nothing she could do realistically. Hot tears raced down her face. Confusion soon followed as the Uzumaki man walked up to the coffin Sasuke Uchiha was placed into. With one hand seal, the 5 talisman seals of the coffin were thrown off. He lifted the lid of the coffin and threw his head back to avoid the black fog as it rose out. Sasuke reappeared, still unconscious and wrapped in the spider web. The man used the kunai that he threatened Tayuya with before to carve the Uchiha out of Kadamaru's cocoon. Sasuke was lying there, dead to the world in a deep sleep. What the fuck is he doing now? Tayuya complained, inwardly. The Uzumaki man walked a bit away from both Sasuke and her and started to do hand seals that she could not follow. An array indicating Fuinjutsu bled ink into the ground. He bit his finger to draw blood, now making her think he was about to do the Kuchiyos no Jutsu. She had been right, but out of the plume of smoke that followed after using the Kuchiyos, it was no animal that had been summoned. It had been a man, whose red eyes glowed eerily in the midnight light. Itachi-kun, the Uzumaki man had started, with a smile on his face. It's been a while. Ichiro-san, Itachi Uchiha spoke in a baritone. Indeed, it has.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.